Imagine walking down a darkened street and seeing yourself coming the other way. Not your reflection, not a twin you never knew about, but an exact duplicate. A perfect copy with one chilling difference. Behind its familiar eyes lurks something utterly inhuman. This is the doppelganger double walker in German, one of humanity's oldest and most universal terrors. From ancient folklore to modern horror like the Mandela Catalog, the fear of encountering your own double has persisted across cultures and throughout history. Hello and welcome back to Dark Thoughts. Today we're exploring the chilling world of doppelganger folklore, separating historical fact from fiction, and examining why the concept of malevolent doubles continues to terrify us in the digital age. The term doppelganger was coined in 1796 by German author Jean Paul in his novel Siebenkäse, but the concept itself is far older. In its original Germanic context, the doppelganger was considered an omen of imminent death. To see one's own double was to receive a supernatural warning that your life would soon end. This wasn't merely superstition. Historical records contain numerous accounts of people reportedly encountering their doubles shortly before their deaths. One of the most famous involves poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, who claimed to have met his doppelganger pointing toward the Mediterranean Sea, just days before he drowned there in 1822. Abraham Lincoln reportedly told his wife that shortly after his 1860 election, he saw his double reflection in a mirror, one face his own, the other deathly pale. His wife interpreted this as an omen that he would be elected to a second term, but would not survive it. 5 years later, Lincoln was assassinated shortly into his second term. While Germanic folklore gave us the term we use today, the concept appears in cultures worldwide, often with strikingly similar characteristics despite developing independently. In ancient Egyptian belief, the Ka was a spiritual double that existed alongside every person, a sort of energetic twin that could separate from the body during sleep or after death. Unlike the threatening Germanic doppelganger, the Ka was generally benevolent, though proper funerary rites were essential to ensure it remained so. Norse mythology featured the Vardögr, a spirit predecessor that would perform a person's actions before they actually did them. People might hear someone enter their home, only to have the actual person arrive minutes later, having just completed the actions witnesses had already observed. In Finnish folklore, the Etiäinen functioned similarly to the Vardögr, appearing as a spiritual harbinger of a person who would soon physically arrive. Celtic traditions speak of the fetch, a supernatural double or apparition of a living person. Like the Germanic doppelganger, seeing one's own fetch was considered a death omen. The fetch could appear as an exact duplicate or sometimes as an animal form representing the person's essential nature. In Irish folklore, the fetch was closely related to the co-walker, a spirit double that would begin to appear more frequently as a person neared death. Unlike some other doppelganger traditions, the co-walker wasn't necessarily malevolent, but rather represented the soul preparing to separate from the body. Moving eastward, Slavic folklore contains the concept of the dvojnik, a spiritual double that could sometimes be glimpsed in reflections or shadows. The dvojnik was believed to have access to a person's innermost thoughts and could occasionally act independently, causing mischief or harm. Perhaps the most sinister doppelganger tradition comes from Native American folklore, particularly among tribes of the Pacific Northwest. These cultures described skinwalkers, or shapeshifters, malevolent entities that could take on the appearance of specific individuals to deceive their loved ones. Unlike European traditions where encountering your own double was the primary threat, skinwalkers posed danger to the community by infiltrating it in familiar forms. They might appear as a friend or family member, but subtle wrongness in their behavior would betray their true nature. This concept of malevolent mimicry appears in Japanese folklore as well, with the ikiryo, a spirit that can detach from a still living person, often driven by intense emotions like jealousy or hatred. The ikiryo could appear identical to the person it split from, but existed to fulfill dark purposes the conscious mind might reject. What makes these cross-cultural similarities so remarkable is that many developed in isolation from one another. From Europe to Asia to the Americas, human cultures independently created the concept of the dangerous double, suggesting the fear taps into something fundamental in human psychology. Dr. Nicholas Royle, author of The Uncanny, explains, "The doppelganger represents one of the most profound forms of the uncanny, the familiar made strange. When we see our own image animated independently of us, it creates a cognitive dissonance that triggers deep-seated fear. It challenges our sense of uniqueness and autonomy. This psychological explanation helps us understand why doppelganger legends persist even in our scientific age. The fear isn't really about supernatural doubles. It's about the fragility of identity itself. In the modern era, doppelganger folklore has evolved from supernatural belief to psychological horror. 19th century literature embraced the concept, with works like Dostoevsky's The Double and Edgar Allan Poe's William Wilson, exploring the doppelganger as a manifestation of the divided self. By the 20th century, the doppelganger had become a staple of horror fiction and film. Movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers updated the ancient fear for the atomic age, with aliens creating perfect physical duplicates of humans while stripping away their humanity, a reflection of Cold War fears about conformity and infiltration. Today, the concept continues to evolve in works like The Mandela Catalog, a found-footage-style analog horror series created by Alex Kester. The series introduces entities called alternates, supernatural beings that can perfectly mimic human appearance, but harbor malevolent intentions. The alternates of the Mandela Catalog draw directly from ancient doppelganger folklore, while adding modern psychological horror elements. Like traditional doppelgangers, they appear identical to the people they replace. Like skinwalkers, they infiltrate communities by mimicking trusted individuals. And like many cross-cultural doppelganger traditions, they bring death in their wake. What makes the Mandela Catalog particularly effective is how it connects to the uncanny valley concept, the unsettling feeling we experience when something appears almost, but not quite, human. The series depicts alternates with subtle wrongness, unnatural smiles, staring eyes, or movements that betray their inhuman nature. This directly parallels historical accounts of doppelganger encounters, where witnesses often reported that the double appeared identical, but somehow off, moving stiffly, lacking emotional expression, or exhibiting other subtle differences that created profound unease. Beyond fiction, the doppelganger concept has found its way into psychiatric literature. In 1923, psychiatrist Klaus Conrad described Capgras syndrome, a delusional disorder in which a person believes that someone close to them, usually a family member, has been replaced by an identical imposter. Neurologists now understand that Capgras syndrome typically results from damage to specific brain pathways. The patient can recognize faces normally, but the emotional response that should accompany recognizing a loved one is absent. This creates the eerie feeling that the person looks right but doesn't feel right, leading to the conclusion that they must be an imposter. This neurological explanation provides a fascinating potential origin for doppelganger myths. If cases of Capgras syndrome occurred throughout history, as they almost certainly did, the affected individual's insistence that familiar people had been replaced by identical-looking imposters could have contributed to cultural beliefs about malevolent doubles. The digital age has given rise to new forms of doppelganger anxiety. Identity theft, deepfake technology, and social media impersonation create modern versions of the ancient fear. Someone else claiming your identity, potentially causing harm while wearing your digital face. Dr. Sherry Turkle, professor at MIT and author of Alone Together, notes, "Digital technology has made the doppelganger fear more relevant than ever. When our identities exist as data that can be copied, manipulated, and repurposed, the ancient fear of being duplicated takes on new significance. The digital doppelganger isn't supernatural, but it can still cause very real harm." This modern context helps explain why works like the Mandela Catalog resonate so powerfully with contemporary audiences. The alternates serve as metaphors for modern anxieties about identity theft, impersonation, and the fragility of trust in an increasingly mediated world. From ancient Egyptian Kai to Germanic doppelgangers, from Native American skinwalkers to digital age alternates, the fear of the malevolent double has shown remarkable persistence across time and culture. Perhaps this is because the doppelganger represents one of our most fundamental existential fears, not just of death, but of replacement. To be duplicated is to have your uniqueness denied. To be replaced is to have your very existence rendered unnecessary. In a world of increasing technological capability to copy, simulate, and impersonate, the ancient doppelganger warning takes on new relevance. Be wary of the double, for it brings not just death of the body, but erasure of the self. That's all for today. You've been watching Dark Thoughts. If this exploration of humanity's oldest fear has intrigued you, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming episodes on other cross-cultural supernatural phenomena. Remember, the most enduring legends often contain kernels of psychological truth. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and we'll see you in the shadows next time.